Welcome to our second webinar with a very simple title, Did We Learn a Lesson? A lesson about importance of healthy lifestyle for individual and as well for organizations. And I'm happy to say that as it looks like at the moment, the Corona period is slowly getting over. And I think it gave us a lesson, quite some of them, but I think we can pinpoint at least one, and this is the importance of healthy lifestyle. Coming from 24 Alive, the organization that is emphasizing the importance of living healthy for last decade, I'm happy that we can discuss about this also today. Also, the reports that are coming now after the peak of the corona virus, saying that people with difficulties with the virus also lead quite unhealthy lifestyle, have some comorbidities, and I'm happy now to discuss about it with my distinguished guests. This time I'm very honored also to host you, Dr. Olsen, from Mayo Clinic, one of the best American doctors, and I would be happy to hear also your thoughts about healthy lifestyle. And I keep reminding our discussion when you said that the majority of health issues could and should be prevented, so that would be great to hear. And I'm also welcoming my other guests, Teresa, President of Quality Health Partners, Adriana from Team Alvarez, taking care for the customer support, Rick Giglia from LA, experienced executive salesman and executive from HP for more than 30 years, and as well, Greg, hello to you, to San Diego. We are also happy to hear your thoughts since you have so much experiences about employee benefits and the third-party insurance sector. And I think this is a very nice roundtable discussion from different point of views. How can a healthy lifestyle benefit to each of us, to economy and society as well? So, Dr. Olsen, I would start with you. How do you see the current situation? Do you think it gave us a lesson or a message?
I think there's several things. One is that we found out more and more how complex it is to achieve good, healthy living, and the importance of healthy living, both from the standpoint of individuals, corporations, for employees, and the community. The COVID-19 crisis has really put that into the forefront, where we now know much more about the behavior of that virus. We know more about the people that are at risks, what needs to be done to prevent it. And I continually hear, both in my practice at the Mayo Clinic, talking to other people, the biggest question people always ask is, what can I do to stay healthy? What can I do so that I won't get sick? What can I do to improve my immune system? I heard that constantly in my practice as a head and neck cancer surgeon, where patients would come up all the time and say, I've had this cancer. What can I do so I can reduce my chances of it coming back? What can I do so I won't get another one? We hear the same thing now with the COVID-19 crisis. People want to know what they can do to improve their health. Employees want to know what can they do for their work environment? What can they do to make sure that they're safe at work? And individuals obviously have been living in a great environment right now of fear, isolation, and these things have all taken a tremendous toll on people's health. That's why one of the biggest things that I've been a proponent of for a long time, and many people who know this about me know that I think that the whole issue of healthy living has to be done on a broad-based nature. There's not one thing or one program that's going to work for everybody or every corporation or every company. And that's where I find the real benefits of 24A Life is that it can offer multiple programs. The one program that I'm obviously very happy about is the 12 Habits program. But I think that if we look at what's important, I think it's important to focus on how do we reduce comorbidities, how can we improve people's immune system, and what do we do about social isolation, loneliness, and stress?
So what, in your opinion, they can do living a healthy life, it's a process. It's not a one-day thing, but what they can do in a current situation to improve the immune system, to start living healthier.
Sure. Well, there's multiple things. I could realistically talk for hours on what people could do to improve their immune systems. But let me just go over a couple things first that I think, just to frame this, that I think is important. I know that as we look at the multitude of programs that have tried to address healthy living, they've almost always focused on three things that I think are also very important. And that's maintaining exercise, diets or reducing weight, and trying to reduce stress. All those things are important. But I also have found out in the studies that we've done about healthy living and people's health that I could tell you that perhaps maybe for some businesses, their employees' healthiest people may be someone who makes their bed, flosses their teeth, and has a good spiritual faith. Or we could say maybe the healthiest person of all is going to be someone who's had a good night's sleep, has a lot of friends, and maintains a good active environment. So how do we know really what is really healthy? And I think as we look at this, we have to say there's multiple things that contribute. Now, getting back to your question about what can we do to improve your immune system, there are many. And when we started the program of the 12 habits, we actually started out saying, what could we do to improve people's health and well-being? And clearly, I would say there's about 5 things I could focus on talking about improving people's immune system. And I don't want to talk too long, so if I'm rambling too long, you have to jump on me and tell me to shut up, because I have a tendency to talk way too much. But anyways, the first thing to improve people's immune system, there's no question that being physically active is important. I'm a big proponent of physical activity, and that's one of the 12 habits. But it's not as simple as just saying physical activity with improving your immune system. If somebody goes out just for a casual walk, they're probably not doing anything to improve their immune system. You have to do something based upon frequency and intensity and duration. You have to do something to really move a little bit more than just slow walking to benefit your immune system. The same thing can be said to benefit your heart. Slow walking is not going to do anything. You have to do maybe a faster walking pace. That's very important. Another thing that's very important about physical activity is trying to do things in green space, in nature. We find that the more that you can do outdoors in green space and nature also helps to improve your immune system. And then there's the corollary, the bad side of it. If you do things too much, we know that it can actually jeopardize your immune system. So sometimes people who are marathon runners, who do half marathons afterwards, their immune function is not very good right away. So it's this balance that one has to do. So I keep telling people, strive for variety, try to do things outdoors, get your heart rate up a little bit, try to do something more than just casual walking. Walking is still one of the best things people can do, and to try to do it frequently. When you do some physical activity, your immune system benefits, but only for about 3 or 4 hours. So you can tell that if you're going to really benefit your immune system, you've got to do something almost every day or every other day to really make a difference. And I think that's very important to know.
But it's never too late, right, to start?
Absolutely. And if you could bottle the effects of physical activity, you would have the most powerful pill to prevent disease, to help existing diseases, to make people feel better. It's absolutely the best thing that you can do. I think there's no question about that. Now, there's lots of other things we could talk about too, but physical activity is a big one.
Big one. So thank you. Rick, Dr. also mentioned that it's important also for organizations to pay attention on employees' health. Do you think such a programs, for example, 12 Habits of Highly Healthy People or similar measures, could or should become a part of employee benefit package?
Yes, absolutely. Can you see me okay? Because I just went off the screen.
Yes, I see you.
Okay, fine. So I can't see you, but I'll just go ahead and talk. Yes. So I did a whole bunch of research on this, and Doctor is exactly right. You know, hospitals do a great job of treating and detecting disease, but they don't do a great deal of prevention. And that's why it's important to have a wellness program, or the latest thing we're calling it is a well-being program. And so I looked at research online, and I found like top 7 reasons to have a really good well-being or wellness program. And the well-being programs are good for people. They help to adopt and maintain healthy behaviors, like Doctor mentioned. The behavior is what drives the program. Unhealthy behaviors lead to lower health risks, and lower health risk lead to chronic disease. And of course, chronic disease creates a greater health cost. So the biggest thing I saw too was it isn't a small time that's needed. It's weeks and months and years. So it has to be a consistency that Dr. mentioned. We find that wellness programs can help contain current epidemics related diseases, the main driver of premature morbidity, as well as morbidity and healthcare costs in the United States, and that was from the RAND report. The second thing that wellness does is reduce elevated health risks. So the foundation, like I mentioned, is to have good behaviors. We found, and the study found, and there's a multitude of studies on this now, that for every 1% drop in cholesterol, the risk of having a heart attack goes down by 2 to 3%. And for every 1 drop in elevated diastolic blood pressure, that's another 2 to 3% down. So the biggest concern on a well-being program was that the programs work real well, but the hardest thing is to get people to lose body weight over a period of time and to lose a significant amount of it. So but they did find though, without the impact of wellness programs in the corporate and business, obesity would be far worse than it is right now. And I think in the last talk we had, I looked and obesity has climbed in the United States to over 40%, I think 42%, up significantly over the course of years. The next thing a wellness or well-being program can do is reduce health costs. And for corporations and businesses, this is huge. There are over 100 studies that have looked at the financial impact of wellness programs. And over the 22 studies that I looked at, they averaged 3 years in time, and there was a $3.27 difference. For every dollar spent, the company saved $3.27, which is pretty significant. Next, they could improve productivity, and this type of productivity is called presenteeism. And basically, it's when poor employee productivity can be defined as physically being at work, but not really working, not being productive. And they found that the cost of presenteeism is at least 2 to 3 times greater than the direct health cost expenses to a corporation. The fifth thing is that wellness programs could decrease absenteeism. There are over 50 papers connected with this. Employees with good health behaviors have lower absenteeism. They can control their stress, which reduces absenteeism. They have healthier blood pressure, cholesterol, glucose, have lower absenteeism. Employees who are not overweight also have lower absenteeism. Of the 22 studies that were done, they showed that over a 2-year period, for every dollar spent on wellness programs, they saved $2.73 on absenteeism. And so the sixth thing, and we're getting towards the end of this, of the 7 that I looked at, it helps with recruitment. And there's really no scientific study that showed that that a good wellness program would help with bringing people in. But there is a workforce study that was done by Virgin Health Mayo's workforce that when they surveyed employees, 87% of them considered health and wellness offerings that was offered by the employer for them to make their decisions. Mm-hmm. And finally, wellness programs build and help sustain employee morale. And this is huge because healthy people feel better, they are better, they're more creative, they solve problems, they feel more appreciated, they have more self-esteem, and this in turn helps a corporation with reducing their costs.
Perfect. So Teresa, you're working a lot with organizations where they can start. I assume that also it's never too late for organizations to pay attention to implement wellness, well-being programs, but what would you say where they can start or how they can start?
Well, I think that it's interesting because at this point, we're all across the world right now, coming out of this very fearful place where we're all learning at the same time. And I think the corporations need to, step up as a leader and try to bring everyone together. We know that when there's fear out there, it creates stress and people get stuck and they don't know how to move through it. And I think, the doctor just spoke about the 12 healthy habits. I think the first thing that we need to work on is our mind. And I think that, the 24 Life Resilient Mind is a great program to start with, because when you're in fear, it's hard to move towards, the good exercise and the great diet program. We need to move past that, where we can get them out of that place of fear and make them feel comfortable again. When you're stressed and you're feeling depressed, you get stuck and it's hard to get out there and exercise. It's hard to get on a healthy eating program. So, I've done a lot of telemedicine, during this pandemic. And I, a lot of my work is with seniors right now. And it's amazing. I've done this telemedicine with 85-year-olds, 90-year-olds, and the ones that stand out to me, first of all, they start their telemedicine out in their garden where I can see them gardening, and they've got this big happy smile, and they start telling me about their habits. They start with their blueberries in the morning. So, there are a lot of patients out there who are looking, and they have a program themselves. They're eating blueberries in the morning. They've got their strawberries, and they are maintaining a healthy diet. And so I learned a lot from them, actually. It's pretty amazing. But the one thing that I always ask them is, I said, tell me your secret to, you're 85, you're 90 years old. These patients tell me they move every day. It's moving, moving, moving. They tell me that they walk several miles every single day, and they eat the same breakfast. They tend to eat a healthy lunch. They're eating their vegetables. So there's a lot of patients out there that know these healthy lifestyle tips. And we got to get out there as a corporation to pass that on. I think when big corporations, businesses, when they work together with their employees and everybody gets on the same page, it's motivating. They motivate each other. So I think that that's where they need to start with. The 24 Life, not only do we have the 12 healthy habits, but we've got that resilient mind. And I think one of the most important places to start is you got to start with the mind. You have to have the mindset to set you forward to implement all the rest of these habits. And a lot of patients that I've seen have a lot of depression through this. There's a lot of isolation. So how do we, as a corporation, bring people together who maybe are working from home now and they're not having the interaction with their colleagues? This is a great time to realize is that we all need to work together and bring people together. You'll see that machine right behind Adriana. That is a machine that we want the rest of the world to understand about, is that if we can take all of your habits and we can come together and be able to learn from each other, and then you can come onto these devices and see my blood pressure is lower, I've lost weight, I've got a positive attitude. These are the times where we can take all these statistics and realize that they're taking these patients and bringing them into a healthy place out of this pandemic. I mean, that's what we really need. We need to move forward, and more than ever, corporations need to lead the way, for sure.
Dr. Olsen, one of the habits is also quieting your mind and family and friends. These are the things that you're also emphasizing that equals to health. But as Teresa said, at the moment, people have a lot of fears. Do you think fear itself it's a big enough motivator to change people's mindset and behavior, or do we need something more?
I think that Teresa is exactly right. I mean, there's a lot of fear right now. There's a lot of social isolation, and that really leads to a lot of times to a lot of loneliness. And we found out over time right now, in terms of a health risk, loneliness is probably equivalent to smoking or obesity or sitting and not being active. And so these are things that we have to address as a society, as individuals, and as corporations. And I think that as we looked at the 12 Habits program, that was really designed to try to look at small changes that could be done over time that would make the biggest impact in someone's overall life. And the things that we feel help the most with stress or loneliness or fear or isolation are focusing on quieting your mind. As Teresa said, the resiliency program is great, but there's many things that you can do for quieting your mind. Just spending time every day quietly alone, is such an amazingly positive thing. I was fortunate to have a wife who is a Reiki master, and she was the one who got me, first of all, in my life to say, you've got to spend at least 15 to 20 minutes every morning meditation, prayer, spirituality, wisdom and growth reading, whatever you find beneficial. And that was so helpful to me, and I've been doing that every day ever since then for many, many years now. And so quieting your mind, I think, is important. Another thing, we have to get people to reach out more to others. Family and friends is extremely important, and that's one of the things that we tell people. When you look back on your deathbed, you're going to realize that you would have much rather spent more time with the people close to you and the people that meant something to you. And I think that's also very important. And we can ask people to reach out and touch people, contact people they haven't seen before, visit with people in this stage when you can't do it always in person or you're wearing masks. There's a lot of ways still to find ways to help somebody else. Helping somebody, having some purpose, having some meaning in your life is all very important. Joy, laughter, love, these things are extremely important. And we know that laughter is one of the things, interestingly, that helps your immune system. We know that people who have fun in life, take care of themselves, do things for joy and purpose, their immune system is actually better. That's another one of those that actually has a bonus of improving your immune system. And one of my favorite habits of all that I just love, that I think is so important in social isolation, is the concept of every month continuing to try to find something new, to work on your mind, to work on your body, to work on your connections with other people, to try to join a group, to read something different, to work on something for your mind, to improve yourself. These things are so important, and they help you to move out of that area of loneliness and isolation. So there's no question that those are important. And finally, the last two that are just incredibly, incredibly important and are also part of the resiliency program is focusing on gratitude and forgiveness. The more we can focus on what we're grateful for, we can have a positive outlook on life. The more we realize that in these times of fear, that we can make forgiveness a major part of our life as well, and try to forgive those that have harmed us or forgive ourselves for what we've done, you're going to find that there's tremendous health benefits.
Great. Dr. Olsen, the program, or you designed all the 12 habits, have tons of researchers in the back, so we can somehow say it's an evidence-based program, which is very crucial nowadays to fight all the fake news, to understand what are the trusted and validated information to serve people, right?
Yeah, there's no question that if we look very closely at trying to find what are the things that could be done simply and could be done for people that would give them the greatest benefit to improving their overall health and well-being. And that's when we came up with two things. Habit research that showed that you have to do something for at least 30 days or 60 days before it becomes part of your life. And we designed a program to say, what is the best chance that through a wide variety of challenges, information, goals, that people could reach those habits. But the most critical thing, as you just mentioned, is what habits do you select? When we first looked at this and tried to see what is most important, we had a list of about 30 or 40 things. And we continued to change those and winnow those down to 12, which we found out that we think will make the biggest difference in people's overall health. And so that, we think it's very much scientifically based. You can look at any one of these and you can find scientific rationale for why they make a better employee, why they make somebody more productive, why they have, as Rick said, they have less absenteeism, improved presenteeism, why they're more innovative, why they're more engaged, why there's less burnout. You can look at it from a health standpoint in terms of preventing disease and mitigating existing disease. You can look at it from a community in terms of how the response is going to be to when we get into situations like a COVID pandemic. So I think that there's no question that the scientific basis is there. And we think that if people can follow this, not only will they look good, live better, feel great, but they're going to stay healthy. And that's very important.
Yeah. And also we at 24 Life, we always want to serve only the evidence-based knowledge and with some scientific background. So Greg, what do you think should be that responsibilities of employers to look for such measures, evidence-based programs? Because when I talked with companies, I hear a lot of different measures they're implementing in organization, but many of them are not evidence-based?
Well, I think always scientific evidence is important. There's so many opportunities for people to get involved in evidence-based programs, but obviously 24 Life's program in the Mayo Clinic does an exceptional job of being able to provide the employers with evidence-based content. Whether everything that we've spoken about this morning, the physical side, the emotional side, the spiritual side, are all areas that are addressed under the 24 Life program. I think more importantly is not that we have a good array or smorgasbord, if you want to say, of products and services and things. I think what's really so important is how is it being used? How is it being implemented? Who is the driver or the wellness person with inside the organization to actually sustain results with the employees? Who's the cheerleader? A good football team, if it's going to make its goal, it has a lot of elements associated with it. And I think it's team play. We haven't really discussed too much of that, but when people go to the gym, the successful people often you'll find will hire a trainer, at least initially, so they can get started. So how do you jumpstart one of these programs? How do you then keep sustaining the program? And how do you keep, as Dr. Olsen might say, we're refiring and rewiring the brain to actually want to do these things, that these are new habits that we make, these tiny habits that we make are things that we can sustain. And like Teresa said, hey, I wake up this every morning and I have the blueberries and I have the strawberries and I have whatever I'm having. I'm creating a new habit in my life that I like. And I think the most important thing is that you've got to like these new habits. Otherwise, you're not going to do them. And I think Kerry Olsen, Dr. Olsen said this in one of the workshops. If you don't like jogging, well, then find something else. If go play volleyball on the beach or go ride your bike or lift some weights. If you don't like lifting weights, which we know do a lot of good, then you've got to find some alternative, but you've got to find something that'll motivate you, that keeps you going all the time. And so while we have a set of programs, I think more importantly is when we open up that application to look at whatever it is that we're looking at, that we're incentivized, and I would say motivation probably wouldn't be it. It would have to be inspired. I think people have to become more inspired about what it is they're doing. And if they're not, it's not going to be able to be sustainable. So we have great programs. My role is to help companies actually initiate, engage, and then sustain those programs for a long term. That's where we're going to see the results. And as Dr. Olsen said, that's where we're going to see a change in healthy lifestyles and the people that are going to be preventing COVID from attacking them, because their immune system has now become, superior in comparison to most people. So those are just some of the things that we have, Ava, that we've got in our arsenal, so to say, to do that. But again, if the arsenal is not being used, it's useless.
What do you think are the concerns that companies are having when implementing programs to promote healthy lifestyle, if there are any?
They all have concerns, and the concerns are, it's a range depending on the size of the company. Probably, again, I'll say this, one of the major concerns they have is that if they're going to pay for something, are they going to see a benefit in return? And Rick mentioned a number, and my head isn't as full of as many as Rick had, but the 3-to-1 number has been out there forever. For every dollar invested, you get about $3 of return. That number is there. It's been there. University of Michigan and all the people that have been doing studies for years in Mayo, they know those numbers. And so the question is, if a team of people is coming together and saying, well, we're going to spend X to put this application in, what is our utilization rate going to be? How many people are going to use this? Do we have a bunch of walking well? Or do we, the walking well people are going to go, well, I don't need your application. I already jog 8 miles every day, and I do all these exercises and so on. And then you've got the non-compliant part of the population that they look at, and they say, well, these are the people that aren't taking their diabetes medication, and they're not making any efforts towards changing their A1C, or they're not looking at their cholesterol. All of those elements are things that obviously in group insurance, we can see in the aggregate, because the actuarial claims that come through, the employers know that. They know how many claims they have. If it's self-insured, they get a report. You know, we had X number of pregnancies, we had X number of heart attacks, we had X number of people who are diabetic. What we do know is if we catch diabetes, which is one of our programs, and I'll speak up, and you catch it early, the actual cost to the company, the cost to the insurance carrier goes down precipitously. Whereas a diabetic on insulin, full on, and allows it to get very, very far along, you can be looking at $80,000 a year. But if you get somebody to catch that early, you can drop that down to around $18,000 a year. So the reality is that you've got to catch these things early before they actually take off and become full-blown diseases that people are trying to deal with and control. And the cost, again, you say, what is it that they're looking at? They're going to say, what is our return, both to, as Rick had mentioned, our full engagement of people in the workforce, number one. Are we getting more productivity out of the employees? Are these people happier on the job, right? And are they healthier overall? Are they healthier at what they're doing? So we're reducing our claims. Those are what employers will be looking at almost every time they make an investment into an application or a health program or whatever it might be.
So Greg mentioned that some companies are have concern that people will not use it, but Adriana, that's your area of expertise, how to help people, employees to use the program. Can you share maybe some feedback from the people using the program? You're the one they are contacting, if anything, if they have any problems, any issues?
Yes, an organization is currently has built a robust well-being program, and we've incorporated the 24 Life app into our topics and how we handle our weekly meetings for the well-being program. It's been amazing. Just last week, I spent some time with the employees here at Team Alvarez and interviewed quite a few folks to kind of gauge, is this program working? Is it beneficial for their lives, and how is it impacting it? And one of the things that we've been hearing a lot is that for the most part, people are in a happier mental state given the current circumstances that we're in. The other thing that we're seeing is that even it's as we talk about evidence-driven, it's very evidence-driven that we have increased productivity. Looks like the call volumes have gone up by %. And I asked one of the employees that actually had an increase in call volume, I asked him, you know, what contributed toward you being more productive? And his response was about when he makes the calls before he sits down, before taking on this wellness program and doing our weekly meetings and talking about resiliency and focus and forgiveness, he used to be very much in his head. And when he sits down at his desk and he's about to make that one call, he clears his mind. He's very present. He's very focused. And he notices that he isn't so caught up in what's going on outside of that call. And so he believes that that is what has contributed towards his productivity. The other things that I heard throughout interviewing folks is communications within the departments have gotten better. People are a little more open. They're a little bit more generous. I think we incorporate a lot of the gratitude into the weekly meetings. And so that gratitude looks like it's being displayed amongst each department as they're communicating. And that seems to be very, very effective. They also speaking to what Dr. Kerry Olsen was talking about, and Greg, and also Rick, it's important to incorporate movement into our daily activity. So one of the things that they've started here, in addition to the app, is a 10-minute twice a day walk. So everybody's encouraged to take 10 minutes and go for a quick walk. And that seems to produce some positive results. People are taking on a little bit more concern of their health, what they're eating, what is their, you know, what those habits, they're looking within to see how they can improve their day-to-day health habits. I personally cannot stress enough the importance for an organization or a company to take on and implement a functioning well-being program. I've spoken with a few friends of mine that actually do not have their a well-being program. Their companies are not in corporate. From an employee to employee perspective, they believe that the environments are really heavy. There's a little bit of tension. And so I just think it's really, really important during these times to give their employees the support and the tools that they need. And, you know, I'm very grateful that I'm able to work for a company that's actually doing it right, that's putting in and investing in their employees. And I can tell that the environment that I work on, I'm excited to come into work. I can see that in others. And, you know, I think that if there's companies out there that are looking to incorporate something to help improve the overall environment, 24 Life app is it's an amazing program where you can pull the topics from those programs and incorporate it into your weekly meetings. And that's the way we've taken it on here. We literally took the resiliency program and broke it down, had the employees understand and do the videos together, do the exercises together. We're taking on the 12 healthy habits. Every month there's a topic. So we have conversations around those habits, and, you know, we are seeing results.
Do you think, Adriana, that the 12 Habits of Highly Healthy People program can be a starting point towards creating a culture of health in organization, because it's so wide and covers so many areas?
Absolutely, absolutely. And actually what comes to mind, water cooler talk. You know, when I see a few folks congregating and talking about things, last month I heard the sleeping program over and over again. Oh, how do you sleep? What do you do? And what were the habits around that? So I think that when we look at, you know, offering these types of programs to the employees, you're going to see that it seeps into their those conversations that off the cuff, you know, and it's helping them move that information over into their families and help them improve the quality of their lives.
Dr. Olsen, you also have some numbers from the usage of 12 Habits of Highly Healthy People. This program was first implemented for Mayo Clinic employees. Can you share some numbers or feedback outcomes from this implementation?
Sure. You know, I think that one of the things that we just heard from Adriana that's very important is having this shared by leadership within an organization or a company is also key. And the more that people can have visuals or have this reminders about these programs is very beneficial to the employees in terms of engagement and having them use them. And as I said, water cooler talks, having people talking about them on a daily basis is helpful too. We found that when we offered these programs that the number of people who said that they found that it had made a difference in their health was like 60%. The number that would want to continue this program and want to keep doing it was 80%. So these numbers are very high in terms of people who found it helpful and people who wanted to continue the program. We know that no program is going to be beneficial for everybody, but we think one of the real unique things about the 12 Habits program is that you're talking about a program that's designed to try to engage people not over a month or over 6 weeks, but over a year, and also has an applicability to almost everybody, regardless of their stage of life or where they are. And at different times of your life, there's going to be times when something like forgiveness is going to be important for 1 year than it is another year. And that's just the nature of just being a human being on this planet and dealing with all the goods and bads and health issues and home issues and work issues that all of us face on a daily basis. So we think that from that standpoint, that it's nice to have a program that can apply to almost everyone.
Great. I agree. And you mentioned that all habits are related to boost or improve our immune system. But a lot of our users ask us a question regarding the improving immune system about the vitamin D. And we also know that now it's the summertime, and what would be your recommendation about sun exposure and the vitamin D to boost the immune system?
Well, I think that, one of the things that we've always proposed in terms of the 12 habits is to try to increase the amount of healthy foods that you eat and decrease the amounts of unhealthy foods. So there really comes an educational component to that. And obviously, one of the things that you've already heard mentioned is that if you can think about what is healthy foods, well, we know that to maintain a good immune system, you want to have protein, water, and you want to have the necessary vitamins and minerals. And you get those primarily, the vitamins and minerals, you get those through vegetables and fruit. And I always tell people, think of back in the days when we were cavemen and we were hunters and gatherers. We would go out and we would look for very colorful things, and that would appeal to us, and we would pick it and eat it. And in actuality, the more color that you can put into your fruits and vegetables, the better. That's why so many things are called superfoods, like blueberries and strawberries, and bringing in the yellows and the greens are extremely important. Now, if you do that, if you have a good diet, you may not need to have other supplements like vitamin supplements or mineral supplements. But vitamin D is kind of a unique vitamin. We know that vitamin D is important, and it's very hard to get enough vitamin D in your body through diet alone, even with fortified foods. So people need to get sunlight. It's a sunlight vitamin. But to do that, you have to really get sun on your face, arms, and legs for about 30 minutes, probably 3 times a week. You counter that with all the people who say, I go out in the sun and I cover myself up with hats and sunblock and shirts and pants. And most people say they probably don't get 30 minutes on their hands and legs and face and head 3 times a week. And so because of that, there's a lot of controversy and a lot of issues right now around taking vitamin D supplementation. And if somebody said they're not out in the sun on a regular basis, I would say that's the one vitamin that it probably is worth taking. And it's, nobody knows the exact amount, whether it's 1,000 to 3,000 units a day of vitamin D3. That's probably what people should be taking. It's the only vitamin I really recommend when people ask me about vitamin supplements. It's gotten a lot of press right now about the COVID in terms of could it be helping people's immune system to fight COVID better. We still don't know that based upon good studies, but I do think there's a lot of health benefits from vitamin D. It can't hurt you if you take the lower dosage levels. And I think that's the one thing. The only other vitamin I ever recommend people is people over 65. I always say that they should have their vitamin B12 levels checked, because that can have a lot to do with cognitive functioning as they get older. And a lot of people don't absorb B12 as well, and they may need to take a supplement. Besides that, I don't think supplementation is necessary if you're getting in and practicing good portion control.
Great, thank you. So the last question before we conclude is, I'm very curious, Dr. Olsen, what would you say to a decision maker when they're making a decision whether to implement such a program into organization, yes or no, from your side?
Well, I certainly think that, as I mentioned before, I think that the best thing one can do is to have a wide variety of programs applicable to the employees, because different things are going to affect people differently, and different things are going to make people be more engaged or more active. And that's why I've been such a strong fan of the 24A Life program, because you've got the Mayo Clinic Diet, you've got the Mayo Clinic Resiliency Program, you got the Mayo Clinic 12 Habits Program, you got Mayo Clinic Tips, and you've got the own basic great components of the 24A Life Healthy Living app. So if you have that variety of things that are out there, I think that you're going to have the highest chance of getting a positive benefit for the employee and for the person.
Thank you. So last time we said we are still learning a lesson, and I also believe that living a healthy lifestyle isn't always easy. but we need to encourage ourselves to go in the right direction. The environment, society, government, economy should support that, because it's, as we see also from Rick's side, it's not a cost, but it's an investment. So I will just ask each of you if you can just give a final thought to people, to organization, why it is important, and to encourage them to really start implementing a healthy lifestyle, healthy organization in every day. Dr. Olsen, let's start with you.
Well, I think the first thing is that from an employer standpoint, if you want to have engaged, active employees who are innovative, who do not miss a lot of work and reduce your healthcare costs, having an employee wellness program is extremely important. As Rick said with the data, there's no question if your employees are healthy, they're not missing as much work, they're going to be better employees. From an individual standpoint, it's key. People have a wide variety of things that they want to do with healthy living. Some want to live longer, some want to be more active, some want to prevent disease, but there's no question that if you look at all diseases that we fight and I fight as a physician, if people practice healthy living, about 75% of all healthcare costs today would disappear. Just think about that. 75% are based upon healthy living decisions, and people don't make the right decisions. They smoke, they drink, they don't exercise, they sit, they eat wrong, they eat the wrong things, they don't sleep well. The list goes on and on and on, and that translates into poor health, and it turns into poor employees, and it turns into tremendous healthcare costs for society and for employers. And so there's no question that I think these are real elements that can lead to people's happiness, productivity, positive outlook in life. I just think it's just, I can't think of anything more important than having people try to make the right decisions. I'm a physician, I'm a surgeon. Everything that I do in medicine only accounts for about 10% of somebody's overall health. 40% is based upon healthy living decisions. The rest is genetics and environment. But the one thing we can do something about is healthy living decisions. And the programs and apps and different approaches are the things that can make the biggest difference.
Thank you. Rick, 40% are is our behavior to live healthier. What do you say?
So you're going to ask me to follow Dr. Olsen on that?
Yeah.
He pretty much said everything. Here, the app is for employers is such an easy thing to use. It's convenient for the employees. It has the #1 hospital in the country with clinically and empirically proven programs. I mean, what else would you ask for? And then all the studies show that by using a program, you're going to reduce your costs. So it's a no-brainer.
Thank you. Rick, it's also unhealthy lifestyle. It's also a burden for insurance companies. Should they promote and reward more healthy living?
Well, of course they should. The million-dollar question is, are they? I think that insurance carriers understand the value of healthy lifestyles. Actuarially, the numbers prove themselves. They also feel a bit stymied because the insurance companies don't control the population. You make your own choices. They understand that as well. And insurance is a game of risk. And the question is, how do I reduce risk? It's really a matter of a risk-reward situation. So yes, they should implement them. Are they reimbursing for them? Many companies already reimburse for them. We see that all over. So what we've really got to look at here is just the 4 things that an individual can do with the application, without the application. What are you doing physically, as Dr. Olsen said? What are you doing emotionally? The gratitude, the things that we've talked about. What are you doing mentally every day to boost your mental capacity? And what are you doing spiritually? What is your spiritual practice? Whether it's mindfulness practice, or you're a Buddhist, or you're a Christian, I don't really concern myself with that. The question is, are you doing something in each of those 4 categories every day? And I think that the app, what it does is it prompts people. It's a reminder. It's a notification. It gives them an opportunity to say, okay, I forgot. I didn't do anything in this category. I should go do that. I need to go do something physically. So that's really it. I think we all need little prods along the way. And the 24 Life app is the coach. And that's the way you should look at it. It's a coach that's in your hand, in your pocket all the time.
Yes. Teresa, healthy living and healthy lifestyle should be our value, core value, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, when you listen to what Adriana said, who is there in the office, who's speaking to her employees on a regular basis, we know that we're, in today's day and age with technology, employees are not relying on their doctor and going in to see their doctor to find health. We know that they speak with their peers. I mean, we get a lot of our information and we learn a lot from our colleagues and our peers. And if corporations don't realize that their employees are the ones that are going to work together to create a healthy environment in that office, they do. Like Adriana spoke about, you're at the water cooler, you're giving advice, you're talking about what works for you. That kind of thing spreads like wildfire. I think in medicine, we talk about best practice, right? So, physicians, nurses, hospitals, they get together and they talk about what works in that healthcare system. What 24 Life is, it's best practice in your own office, corporate wellness. That's what you need. That they're seeing their doctor 5 days a week, right? At work, because they're talking to each other and they're sharing best practices. And that's the kind of thing that is going to be life-changing. So we talked about not everything works. One thing might work for one person, it might not work for the next. How are they going to figure out what works for them? Is that they're going to hear something from their peer or their colleague and they'll say, wow, I think I might try that. It worked for them. They're going to start talking about, a healthy recipe that they came up with. They're going to talk about, I went on this 10-minute walk and I feel so rejuvenated. And then it spreads to the next person and they ask each other to come along. I think that kind of thing, it's intimidating to speak sometimes to your physician. It might limit them going to the doctor. A lot of people maybe go to the doctor once a year, if that. So I really find that you're going to get a big boost from incorporating this kind of wellness program in an office setting where everybody can learn from each other. And I think it's amazing, the resilient mind, that the 12 habits. I think that it's unlimited and they're going to get their money's worth for sure.
Perfect, thank you. Adriana, you are a true health champion, motivating your colleagues, employees, support them towards healthy, living healthier, living healthy lifestyle. Can you also give us some motivation to follow the program?
Yes, back on what Teresa said, we spend about 8 to 10 hours at work. That's about 50 to 60% of your day, if you sleep for 8 hours. And you are pretty much consumed at work with whatever tasks that you have involved. And, by the time you get off work, you go home, you're tired. In many cases, people aren't really seeking their doctor for those type of advice of, what are better habits. They're going to see their doctor maybe once every 2-3 months. So they're not going to get that information from their doctor on somewhat of a daily basis, right before they go to bed. The app, since we've incorporated it into our organization, people are having conversations about that during the day. They're having it while they're at work. Just to kind of reiterate the point of the sleeping habits, somebody told me that they bought some new pillows because that was one of the tips of that week. And they realized, I had a good 5-minute conversation about how his sleep got better because they changed the pillows. And that information was found in the app. That's where he pulled that information. That's where he got the tip. And he did that because he's looking at the app, you know, right before he goes to bed, that 5 minutes right before to check in. He looks into the app, sees what the tip of the day is, and then goes to sleep. And then the next day, he's, you know, he wakes up, he thinks about that, and he looks to his life to see, you know, what can I do that's a little bit better in my life? And a little bit again to what Teresa was saying is it becomes contagious, because now, you know, he has the thought in his head, he's coming into work, you know, he goes to get coffee and then he runs into a coworker, and now they're having a dialogue about, you know, the better habit. And that all comes because there's a tool that's available to them for their employees. An organization took the time, took the effort to build a functioning and robust well-being program. They incorporated the 24-Hour Life as a tool. They're using the topics that come from the 24-Hour Life app, and they're bringing it into the employees' awareness by having a weekly meeting, and monthly, it could be even monthly, weekly, however you want to set that up. But there's something that the company has that they can actually bring a room of people in and have a dialogue about a better lifestyle, better, healthier eating habits, how to stay more focused. They have tools to have that dialogue with that employee. So I think that if there's organizations out there that are trying to find solutions to what's going on in the world right now, take a moment, look into this program. There are so much benefits, and we see the results. We've heard the results, and just take the time and learn a little bit more about this, and you'll see that you'll see the results in no time.
Thank you so much, Adriana. You guys, you left me speechless. I don't have any more questions. So much has been told that only thing I can say is thank you so much for your contribution, for your thoughts. Thank you, Dr. Olsen, for all expert advices. And I hope that our audience will take home some important messages, and to remember that it's never too late to live healthy lifestyle, and to be more focused on our own well-being. At the end, we are the one who must act the first. So thank you very much, and looking forward to hosting you anytime soon, discussing any other interesting health and well-being related topics. So thank you.
Thanks, Ava.
Thank you.
Thank you.